Today we are going to learn how to cut fabric. You will need your fabric, your pattern, a marker, scissors, and pins. To start off, you're going to align your pattern with the towel. Today we're using a towel. You're going to align your pattern with the towel and begin. There are two methods of cutting fabric, and the first is to pin in only a few sides. We'll do that one first. So pin maybe 4 sides, making sure it's completely aligned. Slightly bent is fine as long as it's not overlapping or folding the fabric. You'll take your marker and trace around the whole piece. On towel it's harder, but easy enough. Then you'll take off the pins and cut this piece right here. Exactly on the line, because the other piece, one second, this piece is bigger, and if you make it too big, if you cut like an inch or even a 1/4 inch out, it will be too hard to sew onto the bigger piece. So cut that out. The second way is a bit harder, which I used for a billion years, and it was a bad idea. So you're going to pin all the way around, keeping the pins extremely close to each other for accuracy. You can skip the video a minute if you do not want to watch me do this grueling task. This one is less accurate than the first method, but it still works. For soaker layers especially, because you're still going to be cutting it. A little bit mess up is fine. But if you're cutting for me, then I prefer extreme accuracy. It's easy to cut the paper by accident, so just be careful about that. I can skip about 30 seconds of the video if you do not want to watch me cutting this. Another disadvantage to cutting with cutting this method is that you have to take all the pins off and then take the paper off and then use it. But for this one, you just cut it and use it. We'll take the pins off of that later. This one you want to cut exactly on the line. Even then it's a bit risky, because I've had pieces too big even with cutting on the line. Towel gets extremely messy, but it's pretty easy to cut, and you can be less accurate, but it won't matter. For flannel, it's easy to mess up, very easy to mess up, so towel is pretty good to start with. There you have it. This piece, we'll take the pins out, and then I want to show you one last thing. After a while, the paper gets very cranky, so you'll have to print out more. Now we're going to move this all to the side, and I want to show you one last thing about cutting on fabric. This is flannel, and if you don't want to keep tracing, cutting, and you just want to trace all of it and then cut, there's a specific way to do so, and you have to be very careful about not wasting fabric. So here I've gotten as close as I could to the next piece that I could cut. Here, my previous cutting was pretty inaccurate, so I have this extra piece right here. Who knows what I'll use that for? But just keep in mind when you're cutting to keep them extremely close as possible, so you can use as much fabric as possible and not waste any, because then that's more trash. That's basically it for cutting. It's not as easy as cutting paper, but it's not that hard either. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Any comments, jokes, etc. Even suggestions, I am free for those.